Hello all and welcome back to the Expert Ollie channel. I hope you guys all are very well, and we have a very special video today with one of my favourite, it's actually the second best NRL YouTuber of all time, obviously behind me, maybe third best. Hennessy might be in second, but we got the Leaguie. Thank you, Leaguie, for being here with us today for the round 27 NRL predictions, the final round. A lot of interesting games, still a lot to play for. That battle of the 8 between the Roosters and the Dolphins. Obviously, you're a Roosters fan, so get your opinions on that as well later on. But anyway, so with all that said, let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to start talking about the Thursday night game between the Broncos and the Storm. Quite an important one going into for the battle for fourth position between the Broncos, the Warriors, and the Sharks. So I'll start this one off. I think it's always going to be a really close one. The Storm, with not as much to play for, except for just, there's not really much, is it? They can't get the minor premiership anymore. And I think they might be confirmed second, I believe, possibly.
They are, yeah, unless the Bulldogs win by like 100 points.
The Broncos are battling, so they get in the fourth spot, which we all know is really important when we go into the finals. You get that home final as well, so they'll definitely want that as a Brisbane side. But I am going with the Storm to get the win. I think they'll be able to bounce back after last week's performance against the Roosters, where the Roosters were definitely that much better side. So yeah, I'm gonna go less than 12 though. I think Broncos will definitely put big effort onto it and try the best to win, but just miss out. Okay, over to you, Leaguie. What's yours?
Yeah, no, very good introduction to that game. It is definitely a big one in terms of that top four race. I would be terrified if I was a Broncos fan. I have had many Broncos fans messaging me saying, damn it, why did your Roosters have to poke the beast that is the Melbourne Storm? Because with all of their players back, they are resting a few. Some of the guys that played last week, the likes of Sean Bloor and Stefano Itagamanu, are being rested. But their main core is back, and I really think they'll be out for revenge. I personally think in this game, although the Broncos currently occupy fourth position, it will be a bit of a rude awakening for them. They obviously have injuries to the likes of Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam. Neither of them will be playing in this game, but I think we could see a pretty dominant Storm victory. I'd be going Storm 13 plus. I think heading into the final series, there's a lot of talk now about the Raiders and such. I think the Storm are going to make a real statement here.
Okay, so the first Friday game is between the Manly Seagulls and the Warriors. As mentioned at the start, the Warriors are a team who are fighting to make the four, and with both of us predicting the Broncos to lose to Melbourne, this could be a key one for them. We know Manly, I think mathematically could make the 8, but basically there's going to be no chance really of them making it. In just my opinion, there it's going to be that battle between the Dolphins and the Roosters. So that really leads us to saying, is Manly gonna, do they still believe, do all their players fully believe that they can make the 8, or is most of their players still feeling inside, okay, I know mathematically we can, but we're probably not going to? Then on the Warriors side, they coming off a loss in New Zealand last week against the mighty Parramatta Eels in what was a really close game. But they need to look at that match, and hopefully for them, they have looked back at it, because there's been multiple times in that match where they made key mistakes and really show stuff they need to improve if they want to beat Manly. Manly are going to shock them and stop them from making the 4. And I do believe the Warriors will be that team who will be unlucky compared to the Sharks and the Broncos, and will end up sitting in 6th when they've been 3rd, 4th the entire season. So I'm going with the Warriors, the Manly Seagulls, to win by less than 12. Over to you, Leaguie.
Yeah, well, again, it is an interesting one because the Manly Seagulls are favourites for this game. They do have a chance of making it. They need the Roosters to lose, probably also Dolphins to lose, and they need to win by a big margin. So very unlikely, but they do have something big to play for in the departure of Daly Cherry Evans. It's his last game for the club. It's at Brookvale. But the Warriors, by the same notion, as you said in the game earlier, we know how important that top 4 is. And the teams that they're competing with are the Broncos and Sharks, who are playing the Storm and Bulldogs, who we'll get to later. They could both quite easily lose. The Warriors' top 4 is definitely on here if they can put in a good performance and other results go their way. Unfortunately, I do think the injuries have really, really hurt the Warriors throughout this season. And I do think that the Seagulls will be able to get it done in a close one. I'll go 1-12. But this is a fascinating one to watch, to see just how committed Manly are and how they want to set up sort of heading into this off season. Do they want to end it on a good note? It'll be really interesting.
Second Friday game, which is between the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. So I'll start this one off. The Roosters, well, they have so much to play for here. It would be so upsetting. I think, Leaguie, as you're a Roosters fan, you can agree with this. You'd be incredibly upset if you guys don't make the 8 hit. I feel like even a few weeks ago, when you were unfortunately lost to best team in the league, Parramatta Eels, you obviously unfortunately lost that game. You guys weren't at your best at CommBank. But look, if we look at the Rabbitohs this season, it's shocking to say, but in my mid-season NRL predictions, I put them up in like 5th place or something, because for the first half of the season, they weren't doing that bad. They kind of just dropped off in the second half. Like, when I say dropped off, they've dropped off like a lot. Obviously, they've got a little bit of play for, which is the one man AJ. I think they're going to want him to score. They're going to want him to end off the season with either tying or breaking that record. Not really much to play for, except just what would be a really good victory against the Roosters, obviously their main rival. But I didn't think the Roosters' strength would just be enough. And unfortunately for the Dolphins, I think the Roosters will be getting that win. I'm going to say less than 12, though. I think the Rabbitohs will put up a really big fight.
All very true. And that Parramatta game, I mean, God, if we'd won that one, it would have just been 5 wins in a row coming into this game. You know, we would have been steaming into the finals. And we'd have that final spot locked up. Luckily, we managed to get the win against Melbourne last week, which is not one that I thought we would win. So it still put us in control of our own destiny, which fundamentally is what you want. Yeah. But, God, Souths would love absolutely nothing more than to take this off us in a game where they themselves have nothing to play for. One of my favorite games that I've ever been to was Roosters versus the Rabbitohs at the end of 2023, I'm pretty sure it was, where the two teams are playing each other, and it was a simple equation where the winner makes finals and the loser doesn't. And we won that game. This feels sort of similar to that. Now, we definitely have enough quality to win in this one. I mean, you look at the two sides man for man, I think quite clearly we are the better team on paper, but rugby league isn't played on paper, and especially when it comes to these East versus South rivalries, a lot of form and everything does tend to go out the window. I'm going to be at this game. I cannot wait to be at this game, but I am certainly very, very nervous about it. I do want to mention as well, just briefly, you mentioned AJ. On that side of the field as well is Mark Nawangini-Tawase, who's currently the top try scorer in the NRL. So if you happen to be sitting on that side of the field, you could see a lot of tries on Friday night, because those two are going to go hammer and tong the entire time, I reckon. So yeah, Roosters, I think we'll get it done. I think we'll get it done 1-12, and I can't wait.
But with that said, we'll go on to the first Saturday game, which is between the Dragons and the Penrith Panthers. They looked really good at times. We've seen them upset bigger teams, and there's a bit of me thinking, could they do it final week? Not too much to play for, except just saying, you know what, we just beat Penrith. I guess you can argue slightly different Penrith side. I guess we've seen past few years, you know, that 4 premierships in a row side, which has been dominant. And to now talk more on Penrith, like, they were 17th at a point. Everyone except, unless you were a Penrith fan, obviously, most people were celebrating that Penrith were out of the 8 and in 17th. They were behind us at one of our lowest points without Mitchell Moses. But I am going with the Penrith Panthers to get a win, just a strong win going into finals. But yeah, I'm just going to say less than 12. On to you.
Yeah, well, often we do see in the final round a couple of chaos results where you see an underdog pull off a victory. Unfortunately, I do not think that this is one of them. The Panthers have been on an absolute charge. I remember when they were in last, I did keep saying, this is such an even competition. No one has found consistency. All they need to do is find consistency and they will shoot up the ladder. I'm very sorry that I was correct. but I was correct. So I do think that having rested all of their players last week, they will, similarly to the Melbourne Storm, make a real statement in this one. I think it could be a big win. It's down in Wollongong, so Dragons do have that little home advantage, but the Panthers, this is their time of the year. They are specialists at this time of year. I think we could see a proper statement victory from them heading into week one in a round that in many ways could separate the contenders from the pretenders. I think that the Panthers are going to make a statement here and win by 13 points or more.
But we'll go on to battle of bottom teams. Well, Tigers, you can argue, more not as close to the bottom as we normally see them being over the last few years. They take on the Titans, who are, I don't know if they're battling to try not get the spoon. I don't know if they can't or not, but sorry to interrupt, but if they win this game and Newcastle lose, then Newcastle will get the spoon. Okay, perfect. That was actually helped me a lot. So, I do think now you've said that, that's kind of, I was thinking between both teams. We've seen these guys play a few rounds ago where the Tigers only just got that win against the Titans. Now it looks like for the first time in a long time, the Titans might have a really good game and play. And obviously now you said they got something to play for. You don't want to be that team at the end of the season with the wooden spoon. If I was, as a Para fan, if Parramatta got that spoon, I'd be incredibly disappointed. So I think just that might be able to motivate them just enough to go out and, win the game. I'm saying less than 12. I know I go for that a lot today. But I think less than 12 against the Tigers. Tigers not too much to play for, unfortunately. Losing the Cowboys, they can't make the 8 anymore. They probably won't anyway, but they can't make the 8, I don't think, unless it's mathematically, which I doubt. But then it's the Titans who going into this, and they have something to play for. The Tigers don't, and that's why I'm going with the Titans to win.
Well, this one is one that I'm going to be watching super closely. On the Tigers side of things, that's where I'll start. They are currently sitting in 11th on 24 points as I look at the ladder now. But way down in 15th on 22 points is the Dragons. So what that means is that if they lose this game, they could slip a long way down the ladder. Now, does that really matter? Whether you're finishing 11th or 14th or 15th, the history books don't really remember. But it is a psychological thing, finishing in the bottom 4. So they have something to play for. Yeah. But I do just have a feeling about this one all week long. I don't know if it's my own personal thing, because in my preseason prediction video, I predicted Newcastle to finish last. And it was a bold prediction because they made the finals the year before. So although I like the Knights, I do kind of want to see that come true, just so that I can, stand on my high horse about getting that prediction correct. But the Titans not only are playing to avoid the spoon, but Des Hasler will be departing at the end of the season, as we know. He is a coach that is loved by that playing group. It is up on the Gold Coast. I just get the feeling that this is one of those final round games where we see the underdog pull off a win. They have made a number of changes. Keanu O'Kinney comes off the bench to start at fullback. The centres are A.J. Brimson and Carter Gordon, who was a rugby union player that they signed. He's back from a long-term injury. Looking at their side, I do actually think it's probably one of the strongest sides they've managed to field all season long. So I think it will be a Titans win. I think Titans will win this 1-12 and be able to avoid the wooden spoon this season.
But we will talk about what I believe the next game is between the Bulldogs and the Sharks. And this one, it could be a big one. This could be, I see people who go both ways. And I don't know if you've taken a hint on what you think I'm going to go with. But based on what I've said earlier, with the Broncos losing, the Warriors also losing, I do believe the Sharks can get it done. They want to get in the 4, and I think that would mean so much for them. I think for the Sharks especially, I don't know why, but I feel like that'd be really important and a big advantage if they had that home final. It's for them, it's based on what happens with the Warriors, what happens with the Broncos, and now if all that goes their way, can they beat the Bulldogs? Bulldogs, really nothing to fight for. They're in 3rd place, followed by the Storm in 2nd, and 1st is the new minor premiers, the Raiders. Those 3, there's nothing really for them to play for except get ready, be fit, and for finals to give it their all. The Sharks with something so much to play with, and just that in general, I think will carry the Sharks over to win by more than 12, so 13 plus. Okay, over to you.
There's something about this game that I have struggled to make sense of in the couple of hours since the teams have been released. So the Bulldogs are rooted into third position. I'm looking at the ladder now. They can't really move up. They're 2 points behind the Storm, but 100 in terms of point difference behind. And they're 2 points ahead of all the teams vying for fourth. They're going to finish third. They also haven't had a bye since round 16. I cannot understand why they aren't resting pretty much all of their players. Obviously, Cameron Serrano knows a lot more about that Bulldog side and what they need than I do. But I thought we could see a situation like last week where you had the Bulldogs and Panthers game and Panthers were just full reserve grade. I thought that might guarantee Sharks almost that top 4 position. What that does make me think is that potentially, especially given that a lot of fixtures are going to be played before this one, all the other teams competing for the top 4 will play, maybe in the days and hours before kickoff, we'll see a number of those players come out of the team and they'll actually field a much weaker outfit than they named today. That makes me think that Cronulla will win this one. Everything you said about them making the top 4 is 100% correct. And while they'll finish potentially 4th, come down and play week 1 here in Canberra, that's a very, very tough game to win. That second week of the finals, they get to play in Sydney. I think for me, I would love the Sharks to win this and make the top 4 because it means I don't need to move them on my background for next year, which is very convenient. So I'll be going for the Sharks in this one.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the Dolphins and the Raiders game. Now with the Raiders, obviously they became minor premiers last week, which is amazing for them. I know, Leaguie, you were at the game. You can tell us a bit more about it in a second. But generally for this game, what has been this for most matches, this entire game week, it's all been about there's one team this game who probably has nothing to play for, and the other team does have something to play for. The Dolphins, they've had something to fight for. I've already mentioned before that I think the Roosters will win, which causes them to go on to make the 8 anyway. But for the Dolphins, if something happens with the Souths, and just generally even if it doesn't, I think the Dolphins will want to end off on a really positive note. This is their opportunity for the first time in their club's history to make the 8. So, will they do it? I don't. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, I don't think they'll make the 8 because I think the Roosters will. But I do think with the people the Raiders have rested, I think they'll go on to win this game by less than 12.
So it's an interesting one for Canberra in the sense that while they have rested a lot of players, it's not as 100% full team resting as we saw from, say, Penrith last week. It's more Melbourne style. Looking through their team, they've still got Matt Timoko, Sebastian Kris, Horsburgh, Owen Paddy, Atamariota, Matty Nicholson, Morgan Smithies. There's a lot of first graders there, but it's certainly a much, much weakened side. The key thing for this game will be that the Dolphins will know whether the destiny is in their hands by the time this game kicks off, obviously with the Roosters playing before them. And that will have a big bearing. But I think you're 100% correct in saying that either way, they will definitely want to end this season on a high. It is being played out at KO Stadium as well, rather than Suncorp, which is more their traditional home. You've got Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, Avarillo, Isako, Isaiah Katoa. They are so hard to stop. So I'll go Dolphins, and I think I'm comfortable even saying 13 plus.
But now we go finally onto the final game, which is between the Parramatta Eels and the Newcastle Knights. Now, this might be one of the games where we don't see too much to fight for, really, but as we did mention before, the Knights, if they get a win, which would be a shock win against the Eels, then they're not getting the spoon, and the Titans are. But for the Eels, it's just really to end the season off well, and just get ready for the off season and then the next season. I think I've said it to myself a lot of times, that I think if we had Moses that entire season, I know so many people says this, but I think we had the possibility of making the 8. We've had some great performances, even though sometimes we've lost. And then you got games where we normally play when we play smaller teams, and this is what's been the poor side for us this season. Look, at the start of the season, we lost by a lot of points to a few different teams, which included the Storm. One of them included the Tigers. The Tigers, not saying they've had a bad season and all, but I feel like we should start being a team where we can beat these teams. Next season, genuinely, you could be seeing me put the Parramatta Eels in the 4 for next year. Now, I know everyone will be clowning me on this, but if you look at how they played when we've got that full team out there, we can beat most teams, but we can beat anyone. I think even when we went to Canberra, unfortunately we lost to the Raiders like multiple times. So, and Darwin was a poor one, obviously, but more recent when we went to Canberra, we were up at half time. There's always an opportunity for us to beat teams like that. To end it off, I think we'll be beating the Knights by more than 12. Obviously, I haven't gone into too much detail about the Knights there, but always going to go into more detail about Parramatta. Okay, on to you, Leaguie.
Just like the last game, Newcastle will know whether or not they have something to play for, judged by the fact, whether the Titans beat the Tigers. So that does have, I think, a huge bearing on this game. But I like everything you said about the Eels, and you'll hear me say that in about a week's time when I do my reaction to my ladder predictions, because I did have Parramatta in the top 8, and it was on the basis that Moses was going to be back and in good form. Obviously, he missed like the first third of the season. But this one, it's interesting, and I actually will ask you your thoughts on this as a Para fan. We're seeing for this game Dylan Brown recalled into the 5'8 jersey, despite the fact that last week Joash Papali playing 5'8 did get the win over in New Zealand. Do you think that that's a form thing, or do you think the Eels are just letting Dylan Brown sort of have his goodbye to the Parramatta fans?
Yeah, I have to agree with that second option. I much rather Papali over Brown. Not necessarily saying Brown's a bad player and all, but to me it feels like it's kind of just a thank you for what you've done. Obviously it's not been much over the last few years, but thank you for what you've done. Here's your final game. Stuff like that. Clap them off at full time at Culminate. Obviously I'll be there as I normally am. And yeah, everyone will be cheering for him. It'll be a one day, kind of his day, final game Parramatta. That's what I think it is. Now, people could have definitely different opinions on it, but yeah, I'm just going with, I think it's just kind of a way to reward him and say it's final game, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. It was one that surprised me when I saw the team lists. But I do like to see Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses back together again. I think they are a very good combination when they're at their best, and it'll be nice, I think, for all rugby league fans, unless you're a Newcastle fan, to see those two have one last hurrah together and put on a good performance. I don't think it will be a 13-plus victory, but I do think Parramatta will have enough quality to get this done against a Knights side who might not have anything to play for, will really just be looking to get the 2025 season, which for them has been pretty wretched, put behind them.
Well, with all that said, thank you so much, Leaguie, for being a part of this video. It's muchly appreciated, and I'm sure there'll be many videos in the future together. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a lovely day. And come on, Para, Leaguie, do a come on Roosters for us. Something.
Come on, up the chookies. Come on, let's go.
Perfect way to end it. See you guys next one. Goodbye.